BlackRock has actually sold Bitcoin, which happens very, very rarely, and now there's panic about what this means. Let's take a look at what's behind this. We also have a Bitcoin leak from El Salvador. There's news here. It seems El Salvador wants to start accumulating Bitcoin now. A little correction, it was only Bitcoin, but still bullish. Let's take a look at this. Additionally, Michael Saylor was asked using what will happen to MicroStrategy if Bitcoin falls to $1 here. The answer will shock you. BlackRock had outflows from ETFs, with negative voices saying it's bad for them to sell Bitcoin. Let's take a quick look at BlackRock, because we actually saw outflows from the BlackRock ETFs again yesterday. And whenever there are outflows from the BlackRock ETFs, there are always negative voices saying that it's really bad for BlackRock to be selling Bitcoin because it just doesn't happen very often. I think this is only the 4th or 5th time that Bitcoin has been sold off like this. When we say BlackRock is selling Bitcoin, it's actually their clients doing so. BlackRock itself holds very few Bitcoins. Most are owned by clients. This is important to note, though I often simplify it to BlackRock selling Bitcoin. In reality, it's the clients who sold the Bitcoin. The total amount is quite small, 750 Bitcoin, which they might repurchase several times over tomorrow. But what that really means is that it's the clients of BlackRock who sold the Bitcoin. If we take a look, the total amount is actually pretty ridiculous, 750 Bitcoin. They'll probably buy that back 3 or 4 times over tomorrow. So, when we've seen the outflows from BlackRock, if I can say, those were often just very, very small outflows, so there's really not much to worry about. We're also looking at the accumulations summarized here, which cover almost 1.5 months from November 11th to December 23rd. We're also looking at the accumulations summarized here, which cover almost 1.5 months from November 11th to December 23rd. And you can clearly see that BlackRock bought 118 Bitcoin during this period, and MicroStrategy even bought almost the same amount of Bitcoin in that time. And here you can clearly see that BlackRock bought 118 Bitcoin during this period, and MicroStrategy even bought almost the same amount of Bitcoin in that time. Sorry, BlackRock didn't buy 118 Bitcoin. That was actually very, very little. So we see that the flows here are perhaps somewhat briefly interrupted, but I would say that there will be other days again. I can easily imagine that things will change pretty clearly again by tomorrow. And now we have something really, really interesting happening here. I have also reported that here in El Salvador, Bitcoin payment for taxes is no longer allowed, so you could say it is even forbidden. Many say Bitcoin's journey in El Salvador is over. IMF loan might help buy more Bitcoin. Loan pays obligations, funds projects, rest for Bitcoin. On IMF's first pressure day, El Salvador coerced bought significant Bitcoin despite new rules. Of course, the wages are not used directly, but the wages are used to simply pay other obligations here, to pay for the infrastructure projects. And then the remaining free liquidity is used to buy additional Bitcoin here. On the first day of IMF pressure, El Salvador was coerced when new regulations stated Bitcoin is no longer an official currency. El Salvador bought 11 Bitcoin. Yesterday, a meeting in San Salvador had 1,000 attendees, including Max Keiser. I couldn't attend. Max, an ambassador for El Salvador, gave a speech with his wife, Stacy, and revealed El Salvador plans to buy more Bitcoin. They bought me 11 Bitcoin, and actually, there was a meeting yesterday in San Salvador, just an hour away from me, where 1,000 people were invited. Max Keiser was there too. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. Max Keiser is kind of like the ambassador for El Salvador, and he gave a speech with his wife, Stacy, and he actually said something really interesting. He actually announced, or you could say leaked, that El Salvador is looking to buy more Bitcoin. And he says that this is the interim goal, but that also means they need to massively ramp up their Bitcoin purchases because right now, El Salvador is only buying 1 Bitcoin per day. If they keep going like this, it would take them about 50 years to reach their goal. That obviously can't be the case here, and even that wouldn't work because in 50 years, the price of Bitcoin will be much, much higher. So, if you want to accumulate more Bitcoin, there are different opinions on that. Some say it will happen in a year, while others think it might take 2 or 3 years. Max Keiser even just added that it's El Salvador's short-term goal to accumulate new Bitcoin. Some say it will happen in a year, while others say 2 or 3 years. Max Keiser even just added that it's El Salvador's short-term goal to accumulate new Bitcoin, so we can really assume that we're looking at a very, very short time frame. He didn't specify a time frame, but it must happen soon, within 2 or 3 years. Or Bitcoin's price will rise too high for El Salvador to accumulate it. Their savings plan might increase tenfold, allowing them to buy 10 Bitcoin daily, if they're buying. But this also means that El Salvador's savings plan will probably not double now, but will perhaps increase tenfold here, that El Salvador could now continuously buy 10 Bitcoin or so a day. It's really important to note that there's no guarantee this will happen, but if El Salvador is currently buying around 5 Bitcoin or so, and wants to accumulate new Bitcoin, they would need to buy at least 10 to 20 Bitcoin a day, and possibly even more up to 50 Bitcoin a day, to reach their accumulation goal for additional Bitcoin in the next 2 to 3 years. Because it's crucial. If they don't buy Bitcoin quickly enough, the price could rise so massively. Let's assume Bitcoin is at 1 million in 3 years. Okay, that's a bit exaggerated, but then it would almost be impossible to reach that goal. If they don't start making daily purchases of, say, 50 Bitcoin, then 100, then back to 50 or so. I don't know what their average will be, but they definitely need to aim for higher amounts, so at least a tenfold increase in their current Bitcoin purchases is what they should be shooting for. Stacy Herbert, Max Keiser's wife, also added that El Salvador's strategic Bitcoin reserve was the star of the show today. I don't know what their average will be, but they definitely need to aim for higher amounts, so at least a tenfold increase in their current Bitcoin purchases is what they should be shooting for. Stacy Herbert, Max Keiser's wife, also added that El Salvador's strategic Bitcoin reserve was the star of the show today. So, this is about the meeting yesterday with the 1,000 people when the Bitcoin office took the stage to discuss the successes of the Bitcoin policy with 1,000 officials. As the world now looks to El Salvador as an example regarding the Bitcoin reserve strategy, this could just be the beginning of a pretty extraordinary economic boom for the Bitcoin nation. So they're really bullish about this. I'm pretty neutral. I'm just watching how things develop here. Honestly, I'm really happy here in El Salvador, but of course you have to keep a critical eye on everything. Max Keiser is really bullish about this. He even says that the US won't implement a strategic Bitcoin reserve. He gives various reasons. We don't need to go into detail now. It would take up too much space in the video. But it says very clearly that El Salvador is the blueprint and will continue to be the blueprint for the strategic Bitcoin reserve, and that El Salvador is at the heart of it. Sure, there's a bit of sugarcoating going on when they say, okay, we no longer have an official currency, and then they pivot to a Bitcoin reserve strategy. I get that because in my opinion, the Bitcoin reserve strategy is way more essential than the currency function, since you can still make payments with Bitcoin everywhere. So, I've already said this, it's not like they're going to ban paying with Bitcoin here. I'm going to buy some things here in the supermarket with Bitcoin again later. And then something really, really crazy happened. You all probably heard about it. My condolences go out to all the people who lost their lives or were injured here in Magdeburg. It's really terrible what happened here. And actually, I just tweeted something earlier, and I noticed there was a lot of trigger potential here. That triggered a lot of people. I said, pack your bags, move out of Germany. Whoever doesn't pull the emergency brake now has lost control over their life. So that's the direction I was going with that. And it was, of course, a somewhat exaggerated formulation, which I would say seems to have captured the spirit of the times exactly. I don't want to say that you absolutely have to leave Germany, but what I ultimately wanted to make clear is that you can also financially emigrate while still being in Germany. That's basically the awesome thing about Bitcoin. Even if you're here in Germany and maybe not satisfied, whatever, with the security situation, the politics, or the economic development, blah, 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 feel free to drop a comment below about whether you still feel safe in Germany, if you're comfortable and at ease, or if you're thinking about looking abroad, because I know a lot of people want to move overseas. Some can, many can't. Many people wrote, yes, I would like to, but I can't. Some also said, yeah, it's cowardly to just flee from Germany. I can't really get on board with that because it actually takes some guts to leave Germany. On the other hand, it's true that you're not going to another country just to escape Germany. You're going to that other country because you want, for example, want more freedom in life, because you want more sun in your life, because you want to be healthier, because you want better food, better fruit, because I can chill here by the pool, because I can then go to the beach afterwards and ride my bike around the mountains by the volcanoes. This means that you don't leave the country because you want to get away from it, but you leave a country if you want to optimize your life. That was the only point I wanted to make. People are rethinking, everyone should conclude. Check what's vital for you. There are a lot of people are starting to rethink things right now, and everyone really needs to draw their own personal conclusions. Everyone needs to do a reality check for themselves, like, okay, what's really important to me, what works for me? Does the status quo still work? And then you have to think about, okay, what conclusions can I draw from this? Is the status quo still working? And then you have to think about, okay, what conclusions can I draw from this? Do I go abroad, or am I, for example, here in Germany, but am I changing anything in Germany? For example, by taking my money away from the state, by saving in Bitcoin instead of saving in dollars, or by, for example, choosing differently, or by, for example, not voting at all, or whatever other conclusions you might draw. You can draw individual conclusions from that. One person says, I'm going to protest, I'm going to hit the streets, while another says, yeah, I'm starting my own business, I'm raising awareness, I'm launching a YouTube channel, or something like that. There are so many different ways to deal with it. Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments below on how you see all of this. I just wanted to bring it up briefly because it's really a super relevant topic, and Bitcoin has a lot of overlap with what's going on here right now. And now we actually have a pretty bold statement from Michael Saylor. Check out what Michael Saylor just dropped here. He's being asked what would happen if Bitcoin were to drop to $1. Would all of MicroStrategy's positions be liquidated then? Because that's always such a big concern that people have right now. We have too much centralization here with the big players like MicroStrategy, BlackRock, all those Bitcoin ETFs. When reserve strategies apply, there's some centralization. Countries like USA, China hold more Bitcoin. We have centralization factors and big exchanges like Coinbase, the USA or China. So we have these centralization factors, and we also have the big exchanges like Coinbase and so on. And what happens now if, for example, Bitcoin were to drop to $1? Would there be problems then? Will the big players get liquidated then? And now take a look at Michael Saylor's response.
A lot of people don't really think about it. They're like, oh my God, MicroStrategy is going to get liquidated if Bitcoin drops to no, Bitcoin could drop to $1. We're going to buy all the Bitcoin. If it drops to $1, then it's going to bounce back up again.
It's pretty crazy how quick-witted Michael Saylor always is. If Bitcoin drops to $10, buyers will return. Michael Saylor exaggerates. But if Bitcoin fell to $500 or $1,000, MicroStrategy would face issues. He highlights that falling Bitcoin prices offer a chance to accumulate more. Saylor is so convinced of the technology that he buys all the dips. But he really puts it well. When the price of Bitcoin drops, you can accumulate more Bitcoin again. And he's so convinced of the technology that he buys up all the dips. Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy continue buying Bitcoin regardless of its price. If Bitcoin drops to $1, Saylor believes it's impossible because he would buy more, causing the price to rise again. There are too many buyers for Bitcoin to fall that low. Like selling, when prices are high, sellers increase. When low, buyers increase. It's just not possible for Bitcoin to get into that kind of territory because there are just way too many buyers. And it's just like selling. When the price is high enough, there are plenty of sellers, and when the price is low enough, there are plenty of buyers. And that's just the logic. And if you understand Bitcoin, then you're like Michael Saylor, not on the selling side, but on the buying side. I'm also going to put a link down below to 21 Bitcoin, the easiest way to buy Bitcoin in Europe. Here, with the code BitcoinHotel, you can get up to 20% off the fees for buying Bitcoin until 2021. Absolutely recommend it. Let me know what you think about the current developments. Greetings from El Salvador. Peace out.